Everyone who's here to tonight's Tuesday, October 8th business meeting of the Leon County School Board. We're here at the Aquilina Howell Building, and we're about to start, and we're going to have our student AP introduce our folks for Thought for the Day and the Pledge, please.
So for today's Pledge of Allegiance and Thought of the Day, we have two amazing middle schoolers from NIMS Middle School. They're both 8th graders at NIMS. First up for the Pledge of Allegiance is Tayani Mullins. She is in 8th grade at NIMS. She's accompanied by Antoinette Allen, who's her mother, Dr. Calvin Norton, the principal at NIMS, Dr. Benny Bolden, the interim principal at NIMS, and Dana Wiley, who's the SGA sponsor at NIMS. And she is the SGA secretary at NIMS and also in the Girls Book Club. So she's also smart and is a leader at her school. So please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
And our thought of the day is brought to us by Takira Eason, who is also an 8th grader at R. Frank NIMS Middle School. She's accompanied by Dana Wiley, the SGA sponsor, Dr. Benny Bolden, the interim principal, Dr. Calvin Norton, the principal, Avase McClendon, her mother, and Angela Cox, her aunt. She's also the SGA vice president and on the Trojan Fly Girls dance team.
For the thought of the day, I have two quotes this evening. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Education is for improving the lives of others and for leaving your community and the world better than you found it.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much.
Want to recognize the folks who are here to support these two great young people. We have the principal, Kelvin Norton, and assistant principal, Benny Bolden. If y'all would stand up, thank you for being here. I believe we have some parents and well-wishers and relatives of these students. Would y'all please stand and let us applaud you for doing such a great job. We know that tonight is a school night and that you all have homework, and we know principals have things to worry about. So if you want to slip out, we won't object, but of course you're always welcome to stay. So it's up to you.
Yes.
But we're going to go on now with it, and thank you again for coming. We're going to do our changes and additions now. Ms. Bone, would you be willing to do that?
Yes, Madam Chair. The superintendent recommends the following changes and additions to the school board meeting. Item 18.01, Child's High School chiller replacement, has been pulled. This chiller is being purchased from previous board-approved capital outlay district-wide funds using an existing GSA contract. This item does not require further board approval. Number 2, add item 10.01, Therapeutic Endeavors, LLC at Griffin, reference only number 5593. This addition was made due to an urgency in need to transition these services to the new provider. 3, item 8.01, Corvell Corporation, RFP number 459-2020, Third Party Administration, TPA, for property and casualty, general liability, workers' compensation, and errors and omissions claim has been pulled as well. Item 4, 7.01, school board meeting minutes, September 24, 2019, add documentation. And item 5, 7.03, approval of personnel actions, October 8, 2019, replace the contents of the public content and the supporting documentation. I move the acceptance of these changes.
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's approved. Next is Superintendent Spotlights on Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
When we have a exciting spotlight tonight, Madam Chair, if I may just for a minute, because I don't think our agenda is real heavy. Back in 2006, when I was the proud principal of Leon High School, I had some students approach me about wanting to do a fundraiser at that time for the American Cancer Society. We had several teachers that were battling cancer and, unfortunately, several students as well. So they came to the athletic director and I, Mark Feely, and said, well, Mr. Hanna, if the school raises $5,000, would you and Mr. Feely go skydiving? And I said, absolutely not. I'm scared to death of heights. I don't like to get on ladders, much less fall out of a perfectly good airplane. And they were very persistent. A math teacher at the time was into skydiving over in Quincy on Saturdays. They skydive. And the kids kept coming back and saying, Mr. Hanna, please reconsider, please reconsider. And so finally, Mr. Feely said, look, there's no way these kids are going to raise $5,000. We have nothing to worry about. And lo and behold, they didn't raise $5,000. They raised $8,000. So on October 22nd, 2006, Mark Feely and I drove to Quincy International Airport.
International yet.
Flew up 3 miles in the air and fell out of a perfectly good airplane for a wonderful cause. And then the tradition kind of began from there of Leon High School students raising money every September and October, and it shifted from the American Cancer Society then to support our local hospital. There's an entire wing on the 3rd floor on the Cancer Center named in Leon High School student body's honor. And so dating back now since Mr. Epstein took over, and when I left, I said it's not necessarily important that tradition continues, but it is important to me, as I know it is to Billy as well, that our kids learn at a young age to give back. And I've said this time and time again, what our students do academically, athletically, and in the arts is important, but to learn at a young age as a teenager and even younger, to give back, to help those in need, that lesson is invaluable and perhaps is the greatest lesson we can ever teach our children. So I kind of teed up Billy to recognize some special guests we have with us in the audience. I will say my next to last year, we had, I think the kids raised like $34,000 for the Cancer Center. And we had usually been somewhere in the 20s, low 20s, 22, 23,000. But that last year, and I told the class after, because every class wants to beat the class that came before them. But I told the last class, I said, listen, don't compete with the class before. There was a parent, Robin Safley, who you may or may not know, was heavily involved in that campaign. There's no way Leon High School is ever going to exceed $34,000. It's just not realistic. Let's just say a more realistic goal back around $20,000. So, Mr. Epstein, if you'd like to come up now and talk about your special students.
Well, thank you, and board, thank you for having us today. As Mr. Hanna said, they always put a challenge to he and Athletic Director Feely to do some type of stunt, whether it's jumping out of the airplane or spending the night in a tree house all night or up on a billboard or whatever. I always have gone by the fact of to work smarter, not harder. I've always been able to manage not to have to feel one of those challenges, and we've still been able to do real well. I am proud to announce that the students this year wrote a check to the TMH Foundation for more than $42,000. I've got some Leon students, if y'all are Leon students will stand over here. And I'm going to have Mary Elizabeth, if you'll come up. Mary Elizabeth Williams was the chair and the organizer this year of our cancer fundraiser. As Mr. Hanna said, this is not about grown-ups raising money and pushing it out. This is an entirely student-led initiative. And Mary Elizabeth put in countless hours. I think she must have gotten the short straw draw at the end because all the SGA kids, it's a daunting task that they take on. It's almost an entire month of work that they put together. But we're extremely proud of Mary Elizabeth. And Mary Elizabeth, if you just want to share a few things, go ahead.
Hi, so I'm actually proud to announce that after the reveal, we've had some more money coming in, and we're looking closely to $45,000 now. So it's an experience. It took a lot of work, and it wasn't just me. I was just the one kind of doing all the business stuff behind. There's no way that we could have accomplished any of this without SGA, all the hard work they put in, and the community. It's just an incredible thing to witness as, like, you sit back and you watch everyone else just kind of make things happen, and it was incredible. And I just want to thank everyone who donated, everyone who's involved with it, because I could have never done it by myself. So
Oh, that's nice.
thank you guys.
We are so proud of you.
Hold on one second.
The whole group.
Are you Blair Williams' daughter? So her father also is a Leon graduate, was an All-American football player at Leon and at Florida State University. He was one of my heroes when I was a freshman at Leon. I remember getting on the school bus to drive to Panama City to watch her daddy play quarterback for the Leon Lions back in the late 70s. And this is a testament to you and all the other kids here tonight that are involved in student government. I'm blown away. I called Coach Feely, or he called me on Friday, and he said, "Hold on a minute, we're making an announcement. We're about to do the reveal." And I said, "Okay." And I thought I heard 40 something, and I wasn't quite sure. I said, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "No." He goes, "I am not kidding. $42,000." But that doesn't happen without leadership. It just doesn't. And it's like, and I might have done some stupid annex, but even without the annex, which is even better than I didn't have to do all that nonsense. I didn't have to ride a bull and jump out of a plane and all that craziness. That's what makes y'all so special. And it's happening at other schools throughout the county, but it was really you guys that started the charge. And Lincoln's caught on and does a lot with the cardiac unit at TMH. There's a wing named in honor of Lincoln High School. And not only with this $42,000, because they'll circle back after the first of the year. And I think Leon did like 80 grand for Dance Marathon last year. Childs did 100,000. I mean, it blows me away all of the things that our kids are doing to give back. And, you know, a lot of times when people hear what profession they're in, they feel the need to comment. I don't know how you do it. Working with kids, they're just not the same anymore. And then you look at this and you go, "You're right.
They're better.
They're a heck of a lot better." Because I can guarantee you, when I was a senior at Leon, I was doing a lot of things. This was not one of them. But I am just so proud of the example you set for this community and all that you've done to give back to help others. I mean, it brings me to tears and it makes my heart smile. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Ms. Bowen?
Good job.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I certainly could not have said that better than the superintendent, but the public and the listening and looking audience will notice that we're in pink tonight, and it is all in support of hurried cures for cancer. So I add my voice to the chorus of others to thank you for the outstanding jobs that you do in being such wonderful young adults in helping the community. And many of us have had, oh my goodness, the unfortunate opportunity to walk into the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital and to see that cancer unit there and to see your name on the doors or on that wall. And so my heartfelt thanks to all of you and to the wonderful parents who have shared with you how wonderful it is to give back to the community. And I hope that you will take that attitude of servant leadership with you into the future, because it is from this kind of initiative that our communities can be better. So thank you from many of my family members. Thank you. That's all I need to say.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Can we take a
so much
picture?
for coming.
Yeah, we need a picture.
Is that right?
Sure.
All right.
If
Mr. Jones, would you like to say something?
I would.
Okay, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Well, first of all, as a cancer survivor and as a member of the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital Foundation Board, I want to thank all of you young people for your great work and effort on behalf of our community and our cancer community and cancer patients. What you have done will speak volumes and will resonate and live on as a legacy, impactful gift. So thank you very much. And I'm certain for each and every one of you, the best is yet to come.
Absolutely.
Mr. Jones comes in ties, bow ties. He's in good uniform today.
Okay, that was great. So happy to have you all. Again, students, we know that you have homework tonight, and our feelings won't be hurt if you have to leave. We do appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. Next, we do not have reports tonight, so we'll skip that. We're up to items of consent. Do I
I
have a
move that
motion?
items
Madam
of
Chair.
consent.
Madam,
Excuse
we
me,
do have
sorry.
three persons
Oh,
to be heard.
I skipped that. I'm sorry. Persons to be heard. Let's do that.
We have three speakers, Madam Chair. The first speaker is going to be Pastor Kenneth Frame. Will you please come to the podium, give us your full name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Superintendent and board members. Truly is an honor to be here. My name is Pastor Kenneth Frame. My address is 120 MacArthur Street. I am a crossing guard at one of the greatest schools in Tallahassee, Sable Palm Elementary School.
Orange Avenue corridor.
Pastor, be sure you
And I am so blessed to be a part of that school. The staff there is just tremendous, and the kids. And they have inspired me to write a poem. And I wrote a poem for the school board that I have entitled The Mighty Giants. I wanted to share that with you if you'll
let's
allow
not
me
have the
today.
timer on for this is a special
Tribute.
event.
Yes,
We
yes.
aren't going to time you on your
If you
poem.
don't mind,
just
pull
go
your
right ahead.
microphone down just a little bit, Reverend. There we go.
Yes, ma'am. I wrote this poem called The Mighty Giants, and I wrote it especially for the school board. Welcome to the Leon County Schools and this beautiful place in Tallahassee, Florida, where dreams come true, the home of the Seminoles and the marching FAMU. Yes, our schools are truly first class, with a touch of royalty and a pinch of Southern grace that's rooted and grounded in this capital state. So snap your fingers twice and get into the groove, because Leon County school systems are truly on the move. Our superintendent and school boards are the top of the line, and our teachers and staff are one of a kind, for they are professional and courteous all the time. You see, our schools of greatness has integrity and pride that's reaching our youth and changing lives. A touch of class capturing the beauty of grace, so all of our students can graduate, bringing their fantasies and dreams to life, so they can focus on college with their heads held high. As the artist paints on the canvas with grace, Leon County Schools will bring a smile to your face, giving the best knowledge that they can give to educate and mentor all your kids, to help them to grow up to be the best they can be, so they can be part of our history. Yes, our schools are leading the way with industry, technology, and higher paying jobs, so all of our students can prosper and survive. So come join our team and give your very best, and our Leon County School Board will do the rest. Like the sun that shines through the sky above, showing the beauty of our Tallahassee love. Mighty Giants, that's who we are, always reaching for the stars.
Oh, wow.
I wanna Thank you, Reverend, and I see that your principal, Anicia Robinson, and assistant principal are here. Could y'all just stand?
Yes.
We want to recognize you
That's
for this
beautiful.
great school of Sable Palm.
Yes.
Inspired, yes. Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Our
Thank
next
you, sir.
speaker is,
The next speaker is Cheryl A. Mars. You please come, give us your full name, address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Instructor at Bond Elementary School.
Good evening, Board. Good evening, Superintendent Hannah.
Good evening.
My name is Cheryl Mars. I live at 2267 Parrot Lane, Tallahassee, Florida. And I'm here tonight to do something that I've rehearsed for a long time, and I hope now I don't fall flat on my face and mess it up. I stand before you as an extremely grateful and appreciative employee. And I think you need to know that from someone who's been through the mill and back. 3 years ago, I had a position at the district level which allowed me to see a glimpse of what you see from your side of the table. You make decisions day in and day out that are never about one person or one group. It's about a bunch of persons and a bunch of groups. And as much as I would like to say it's all about me, that's not true. When I came back home after burying my mother and swimming back home from Katrina, I was at a loss. Where do I start? And some of you very people on this board, some of you very people out here in this audience, and several of you over here literally held my hand and walked me through the process to get to where I am today. I am also a cancer survivor, a battle that I will fight for the rest of my life. But I stand before you as one very thankful, grateful, and appreciative employee. I would not be standing here tonight if it weren't for you. And I'm still a work in progress because I haven't learned it all yet, and I don't want to ever get to that point that I've learned it all. Thank you very much for holding my hand and walking me through. I wouldn't be here without you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet, thank you so much.
Ms. Martin, you want to tell them where you work?
I work at Riley Elementary in the media
Oh, my
center.
goodness, yes.
And for what it's worth, I wrote a little thing, and I just want to leave you with a bit of Cheryl's humor. Working math problems in Go Math Athletics, expository and narrative writing, wonders we're reading and I ready too. These are a few of the things that I do. Lesson plans late, focus portal. Parents want to know and why and how and where and when and how come and why not. I think of the great things our schools will all do, and then I don't feel so bad.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Madam Chair, my colleagues get so tired of me up here. You know, I know y'all do talking about the what?
Are you going to sing too?
No, I'm going to say the
can.
Thorpe Street Corridor. Thank you, ma'am. We really appreciate you and all you do. You just brought such joy to our hearts. No pun intended. That was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much. Okay.
We needed all
One
of
last
this
speaker,
tonight.
One last speaker. Yeah, can we just like meeting
I say that doesn't usually happen.
Adjourn. We
Twice.
can adjourn.
This is two very positive, very encouraging.
In a row.
Oh, wow.
This is an unusual school board meeting already.
And our third
Love it.
speaker is Scott Mazer.
Oh, Scott.
Oh.
Chris.
Cam.
I put together an interpretive dance for you tonight. No, I'm just kidding.
Name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Scott Mazer. I don't want this to eat into my 3 minutes real quick. No, Scott Mazer, 3319 Dartmoor Drive. Speaking on behalf of Leon Classroom Teachers Association, I think we can go ahead and continue the positivity. One of the things that we wanted to say is we know the governor came out with his plan yesterday. We know that sometimes plans create more challenges than they create solutions, but it's a step in the right direction. It's a part of the work that we've done together for the Fund Our Future, where last year we had the photo frame going around, we had the walk-in. We've been making it a part of the conversation. So we're very pleased to see that there's movement at the legislative level, but we're not ready to stop just yet. So what we're asking and what we've kind of shared out is October 29th. We're going to be meeting at the Turnbull Center for a community conversation that is based on the public schools that our students deserve. And so what that basically comes down to is if we wipe the slate clean, if we talk about some of the unfunded mandates, some of the partially funded mandates, some of the things that our students do such great work to go ahead and support our community, we think that we can do a better job as a state of supporting our students. And so with that, we invite you to the conversation as well as the community. We've got some flyers and things that go along with it. We'll have some stickers and things like that. We do have an idea to go along with it, but we don't want to get too far into it, but with an art competition that goes along with it, where we would engage the students to come up with some things and then use them as part of our yard sign and stickers to go around town to kind of make sure that as people visit our town, they have an understanding of what it is that Leon County stands for and what we expect out of the legislature this time. I'll leave it with this. One of the things that was discussed was morale, and we know that there's challenges that come with the money part, but I think at this time and where we are, we usually do a temperature check just at the end of the school year. Not sure if maybe an end of the first 9-week temperature check of where things are just so that if there's some things, we can kind of be proactive rather than reactionary at the end of the year. So just a consideration, and look forward to working with you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Okay. Is there a motion to accept the items of consent?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. We're going to scroll right on down to 1901. And we are talking about the
Dina.
local bargaining situation. Who's going to speak to that?
Ms. McAllister's coming up to speak
Okay.
to the agreement with 1010.
Good evening, School Board Chair and School Board members. How are you all?
Great.
Well,
Tonight, I bring before you bargaining items for Local 1010 and the Leon County School District. We have tentatively reached an agreement, and on September 9th, it was ratified by the 1010 unit, which includes all of our blue-collar custodians, painters, anybody in construction and maintenance are the persons who will benefit from this agreement. Local 1010 voted and ratified the tentative agreement on September 10th. Provisions of the contract are due to be effective upon the date of ratification by the board, except of those provisions that indicate a retroactive or prospective effective date. Are there any questions?
Have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you.
If I can add, thank you, Dina, for, so as a result of your action, we have now increased Leon County Schools minimum wage again by 75 cents. 3 years ago, we were at $9.30 an hour. We are now at $11.84 an hour, just short of $12 an hour for our blue-collar employees. This included all of our bus drivers and a lot of our maintenance staff. They've received salary increases over the last 3 years between 20 and 30% increases over the last 3 years, depending on their annual salary range. So we've done a lot of good work, and I just want to thank Dina for all your time and effort you've put in with working with 1010. They've been just a joy to work with, very appreciative. But just to remind you all, we really have moved the needle with this group, with them, and we're working, I guess, with LESPA and LCTA. The governor kind of threw a curveball in there with his announcement yesterday. We'll have some discussions with LCTA about where to proceed, but this was another good step in the right direction to address some of those inequities with our blue-collar employees.
good job. Thank you.
Any comments?
Yes, I think this is as one of the principal employers in this community, for us to make this type of investment in our workforce will reap enormous economic dividends in our community. The impact it will have in our community is going to be felt for a long, long time. And so I'm delighted to be a part of having made such a substantial contribution in the lives of so many people who are in our employ. Congratulations to us.
This is so big. You know, the folks who are earning the least sometimes are doing the most. And we know that with our custodians and our bus drivers and the folks that are holding things together and making school a great place to be. And so to be able to give this kind of salary increase over the last 3 years, I just am so proud of the superintendent for finding the money, squeezing the money out of the turnip, and for this board for championing that idea. So I think we're all going to be really happy to vote on positively on this agenda item.
Yes.
So do I have a motion?
You.
We've already done that
You
whole
did
thing.
that
We're just
part,
still
I think.
talking.
You did
Okay,
that
thanks. Thank you, Dina. And next is the Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare Employee Assistance Program.
That's another wonderful entity that our employees have access to, which is the Employee Assistance Program. And before you is the contract between Leon County Schools and the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital as it relates to offering support, counseling support to all of our employees. Over 5,000 of them who have the ability to seek counseling services, confidential counseling services, up to 4 visits free of charge and extended to their family members as well. And in this day and age, when we have so many people who are struggling mentally, for various reasons, through sickness, diagnosis, or family concerns or job-related issues. This is a wonderful entity that I'm proud to say that we offer, because many times people don't want to say that they need help. And this is an avenue for us to make a recommendation for them to seek that help without having to determine how to pay for it.
I
So
move
I strongly encourage that we support this effort.
I move acceptance.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
I did want, I'm sorry, would you just speak to perhaps if you know the percentage number of our,
And I knew someone was going to ask me that, and I did not bring that with me, but
It's
I
a
would be
great
willing to come
question.
to one of our agenda reviews and share that. Our numbers have increased
Yes.
for various reasons.
Certainly. Okay.
So that information is crucial, because we want to make sure that people are benefiting, and that you know the numbers and why this is so important.
and it is, thank you so much.
So did that receive a unanimous vote? I just want to make
Yes,
sure.
it did.
Yes, it did.
From
Okay,
here.
thank
It
you.
did.
You can move on.
It does.
Okay, and next we have Mr. Albritton.
Good evening, Board, Chair, Superintendent. Item 1903 is the Superintendent's recommendation for Board approval for Heritage Trails 5-year Educational Plant Supplemental Survey for Leon County Schools version 5.5. This survey is recommended for Heritage Trails to be changed from an exceptional student education to an alternative school.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes. Okay, great.
Item 1904 is Superintendent's recommendation for approval for Genesis Health, Inc., Amendment 2 for Professional Engineering Consultants at W.T. Moore Elementary School, Site Improvements, Drainage, Field Project. The engineering fee is $20,000.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes.
Okay, 1905 is Superintendent's recommendation for approval of surplus property and vacant land purchases as is. Sale agreement for Lot 1, Block H, Cherry Hill Edition, parcel 411133H0010. We are selling this vacant property for $6,000.
Move approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you.
1906. Dr. Gale?
Good evening, Madam Chair, Board members, Superintendent. Before you is an item on 1906 that we discussed at length. We had a workshop on yesterday. You'll remember the purple folder. That is with Voss. It's a PTSA, an extension, an amendment, if you will, of the agreement that we originally signed on July the 8th. This one is an amendment, and it extends our PTSA from 2 months to 10 months. Mr. Voss did a workshop on yesterday and provided a lot of information, and the item is before you this evening for approval.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I might speak to this item before we move on. I have some concerns that I'd like to express to the board and kind of see if anybody feels, some of the similar things that I'm feeling. And I greatly apologize for missing the workshop yesterday. I had something that completely precluded me from being there, and it's not like me to miss. I'm a big advocate of the gender review. So, but I think as I look at this, it took me a while to kind of come on board with the marketing plan, but I do see that we need to promote our positive message in our community, and that it's become very competitive, and that we retain our students into the Leon County traditional public school system and tell all the great stories that are happening. So it was my understanding that I think a year, maybe two ago, that we engaged a local firm to begin doing some work for us to move toward that effort. And I believe they obtained a lot of collateral, including videos, photographs. They even did a website template for one of our schools, and it was all kind of moving in this direction. We all know the use of social media is very powerful, and how we can target certain areas through social media. So I think they had invested in us. We had maybe invested a small portion in them. And then talks kind of, I think, from what I understand, and I could be off base on this, that it kind of stopped. but they're still holding on to this collateral. So they're about a foot into, and it would be Saks Media that had done this for us. So they were kind of a foot into the process. And then we decided we're going to hire our own marketing person, which took me a while to come on board with that, but I know that's the will of the board, and I want to support that. And so as we moved in that direction, then all of this collateral and this investment that we had kind of stopped. And then we went a different direction. And so my concern is a few things. One is that we're looking at a firm without revisiting who had already stepped into this role. We're also looking, we haven't weighed out our options in Tallahassee. I feel like if we're going to go this direction, we should give our local businesses at least a chance to come to the table with what their proposal might be. And it's my understanding we didn't go that route. So these are parents of our students. These are investors in our local schools, and we didn't engage them in this process. So that would be another portion of my concern. Thirdly, we're engaging a marketing director. And in my mind, the timeline is a little off. I would believe that we would put the marketing director in place to then maybe have a say-so in who we choose as a firm, or what they value as what comes to the table from maybe various sources, and be part of us to make that decision as we go along. If we go this route, I think we're putting something in place with a firm and then hiring the director that really had no say-so on the front side of it. And so these are some concerns that I have, and I would ask the board that we put a pause on this and possibly entertain local firms, maybe minority-owned firms, female-owned firms, whatever it is, but that we look at the quality of work, the proposals that they have, and do what's best for Leon County Schools. Not that this is not personal. I'm sure this firm is wonderful, but we just didn't evaluate the whole entire process, and I was a little surprised by this proposal tonight.
Anyone want to speak? I'll be glad to say something. The Florida School Boards Association, we all go every year, and the person who's known really as the expert in the state in specifically school education, communication plans, marketing, and so forth, is Mr. Voss, and so recommended very highly by so many people. We brought him in, I think Superintendent did, just to kind of do an audit of what does Leon County look like. And we have great schools, and I think, Ms. Striplin, you said it right. We've realized that it's not just everybody goes to their home zone school now. Everyone has lots of choices, which is great. Choices are good, and it's made us more competitive. But when you're competitive, you have to brag about what you do well. And so, I think and sometimes it's good for an expert from the outside just to come and take a look. They have no, it's just from the outside. Sometimes it's good to have an expert come from the outside, and I think that's what we've done with this contract. And I think it's important that we have an overall communications plan. I don't see this so much as a branding the district. I know that was brought up today in the Democrat, that's the main thing, but it's not so much branding, but it's getting the word out about our schools. We're trying to solve problems. We have some issues in our community where some schools are considered good and some are bad, but when I go into the schools, they all seem pretty good to me. But we have to tell our own story, and we want people to choose because they know information. It's like, how many people know what's going on at Rickards? How many people know what's going on at some of the schools? And I don't think they all do, and it's our job to tell them. So the other thing I like about this plan, it's an umbrella, and this is bringing in a consultant, an outside consultant, for us to come up with our own marketing and communication and safety plans, because we'll be delivering some new things that we didn't even know about yesterday. I'm sorry you missed the workshop too, but some things that I don't think people in Leon County necessarily knew about because they're very education oriented. And so I think when you do something like this, it's important to get an expert in that field. And of course, I love Ron Sachs and his whole organization. And I have a feeling that once we get a plan, we're going to need those local people to help us with whatever we need to do. So absolutely, I agree with you that once we get our plan in place and our decisions, then we should bring in our local folks to help us implement it. But this is just trying to give us a guidepost for what are our biggest needs and what do we need to do. And I think sometimes it's good to go outside and have that kind of look. So that's just trying to respond to your issue.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move acceptance of 19.06 for Voss and Associates.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Does anybody else want to say anything?
I just want to say
Go ahead.
one thing. I was not aware that we had started down this path with Saks or anyone else. So I just I guess I wanted to say that out loud. Just I was a little bit surprised and to hear that. So thank you for sharing that. Sometimes we don't have all the information, and so I regret that that happened that way, or that even if it's just a perception that that's what happened. I don't know the specifics. What I do know is yesterday when we had the presentation, I was there were some ideas that I think what the chair has referenced are unique to education that I hadn't thought about, and I thought appear to have worked well in other counties, and it may be something that we can greatly benefit from. But to another one of your points, I have long felt that we probably wouldn't be able to afford to attract the kind of person in the marketing position with our budget that we would need to attract. And so my understanding from yesterday was that Mr. Voss will sit on the selection committee to help us find the best candidate, and that he would then move into a mentoring role to help our new person understand his bigger plan based on his many years of expertise. And I appreciated hearing that too, because I think that brings someone new and sets them up for better success. So just for what that's worth, again, my sincere apologies to anyone in the community that may have felt slighted by this process. I don't know the details on that, but
And I'll just respond, and then we'll go and have the vote, because it seems like I'm the minority on this, which is okay. This is not, I will go with the will of the board, in the long term. But we could have engaged other people in our community in this process, and we could have compared prices. I dare say that there would have been local people willing to do exactly what Mr. Voss is doing for exactly the same price. That doesn't mean he's any greater or any better or any less than any others. It just would have been nice, as we do with our construction contracts. I get we're not required to because of the dollar amount, but it would have been a nice evaluation for us to see what the other firms had to offer before we made this decision.
Good point.
Although I made the motion, my only unreadiness would be, has this contract, I make the assumption that this contract has been managed in agreement and in concurrence with our procurement policy.
Yes, we're using our standard professional technical services agreement. This is a professional service, so it's falling under our consultant agreement policy. I think it's 6540, 6450, one of those. The numbers are switched in my head. Yes, so we are following that.
And so I just want, I don't want it to appear as if, I want to be clear that this agreement, this contract is not untoward, and that we're not operating in a way different than what we've operated on any other contract of this sort and of this value. I think that is very important to be clearly stated, that this contract has been managed appropriately by the assistant superintendent, and that there's nothing untoward in this. And we went, as described by our chairperson, with an industry subject matter expert.
Even to that, if I could add to that, and I think Dr. Gale wanted to share something real quick before you guys vote. First, this discussion is healthy and it's needed, and for you all to be involved in the process. That this could have been a contract for $40,000 or $38,000 or $50,000, but it was important to have this discussion. So we are absolutely going through every single protocol that we should by vetting Mr. Voss. And I understand what Board Member Stripling's concern is. I would say that content is ours. We paid for it. So as we get down the road with Saks and the other people we engage with, but I'm going to tell you, that was just shot in the dark at us with a very small budget to engage with them before school choice season last year. to put something together because we had nothing before school choice. They get it. I would say echo what Board Member Wood said. We are absolutely going to be engaging with local firms to execute the plan. But I think his institutional knowledge and working with school districts is something that's unique to Mr. Voss and his team and his company. But he's going to guide us through a process and through our new director of process. And with Dr. Gale's oversight, that we then would go back to Sachs Communication and other local companies to help us execute the plan that he brings forward over the development and over the next 6 to 8 months. So I think that's where our thought process has been. Dr. Gale, you want to add something?
Yes, I wanted to add something if I could. You already stated it, that we did use local vendors, minority vendors, women-owned vendors for the school choice campaign. If you recall, back in January, at the beginning of school choice, we did have an excerpt in the Tallahassee Democrat, which was indeed a collaboration on all of our schools using multiple people, Florida A&M University. We used it again during the back to school issue. We sort of stroked it over a little bit, changed names and different things of that nature. As the superintendent said, all of the content that we have gathered, that is ours. We have that capital. And so you will be seeing that again in another way. And so we will be using those local vendors. Great point.
But as we increase the number of vendors, we're also going to increase the cost. So the more people we engage in this process, the more money we're spending. And so did we reach out to those firms to submit a proposal as we did with Mr. Voss? And I would assume the answer would be no to that. And that's my opposition.
That is correct. We did.
One thing I wanted to add to my comments before I came here, because, we hate to spend money on anything that's not going right into the classroom. It's very difficult, and that's why y'all have furniture from the 1950s in your office, because that's our priority, absolutely. But we have a situation where we, are facing a new charter school opening next year with maybe 500 students. That's going to equal $3.5 million gone from the district. We right now have 1,800 students being homeschooled. We have 4,200 students in private school. That's representative. If you add those together, and in charter schools we have 1,655 students. That represents $53 million. So this is a big deal. And 1% of that, if we were to gain back 1% of those numbers of students, that would be worth $500,000. So I think sometimes you have to invest to get a return on your yield, and educators are not used to thinking that way. I'm a teacher and a principal, and I just think about education. But we're in a new world, and I think we have to embrace that, and we have problems to solve. We have segregation problems to solve. We have some schools who have perceptions that they aren't as good, and that's why we started this whole process. I just want to make it clear, we're trying to solve a problem here. This is not, we want to, look good. We want to solve a problem, because some people, if you ask people in the community, you ask them, well, what's going on at the schools? They don't know, and we have a big story to tell, and we have a lot to brag about. But if we don't tell our own story, then we leave it to others to tell. And we want people to make choices based on facts and based on knowledge. And I think this is the step in that direction for us to really inform the community of what we have, because it's worth bragging about.
And with all respect, I don't disagree with anything you said. Absolutely, we need to market ourselves. Absolutely, we're losing dollars. We're losing students. Absolutely, we have great things. It's not about telling the story. It's about the best decision we can make to evaluate who to tell the story.
I understand.
It has nothing to do with the story itself.
And that's great. I think there's just a decision to go with an outside specialist. So it's been moved. It's been
Properly
seconded.
moved and seconded.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay. Passes. All righty. Thank you for that discussion. See, superintendent's comments.
No.
No, I'm sorry, I missed something.
Joy Bone.
I got to put my glasses on. TCC African American History Calendar. Ms. Bowen.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you, board members, for this opportunity for me to tell you that I have been selected to be on the Cherry Hall Alexander African American History Month calendar.
Yay.
Yay! For 2020. I am excited about the opportunity to serve this community in that way. This is my very first time being on that committee. This is the 20th year of this particular calendar being presented to the public. I need to say to the listening public and to you school board members who are listening as well, that to get in your nominations for those outstanding individuals who have made considerable, great, compassionate, what can I say, to this community. Give me a word. Contributions. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. The theme for this year's calendar is a vote of confidence. Now, the scary part, a little bit, yes, there is that the date, the deadline date by which these nominations should be in is October the 25th. But I don't think that's going to be a big problem because you're listening out there and you're listening in here. You know those outstanding folk who've done these outstanding things in the community in the areas of law or not law, teacher, education. Just those people in the community who make those leadership kinds of wonderful things happen for us as a community. Marcus Nicholas is the chair of this committee at TCC. Give him a call. You will recall from last year that several of our employees here were on the face of that calendar. I expect many others will be. And to think, oh, there are some people up there now who've been on this calendar. Lost my train of thought right quick. But anyway, it is happening. I'm your representative. Please call your neighbors and your friends and have them submit names for this calendar. I will be bringing to you other information about dates and events where you'll be invited as the public to attend. I think I lost my whole train of thought, but you got my message, right? You got it? Was that pretty good? That was pretty clear, Ms. Coffey? Yes. Thank you all.
So we have 20 days.
We got 20 days. I remembered my thought. The thing that makes me most excited, this year the committee is really taking a look at those grassroots heroes and sheroes in the community. And that really did excite me. You know, after the hurricanes, there were so many people just doing nice things for many of our friends and neighbors. And so you don't have to be a teacher, you don't have to be an elected official, you don't have to be anything but a good person with somebody writing your application for you. And if you don't write well, like I don't write well, call somebody and have them help you get your application in. And if that fails, call again Marcus Nicholas at TCC. He will have a help center there so that the community can get these nominations in. Now, that was a great announcement.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
as
you.
always, Ms. Bowen.
Thank you. It was.
Superintendent, you're on.
Briefly, Madam Chair, on Sunday, several of you attended the longest table event that our students put on. It put on for the last several years. I know the Tant family was out there in full force, putting on the dinner, putting the tables together, and it was certainly a long table as we walked around.
Yes,
And
it
there's
was.
some perfect time. It's a wonderful event. The best part about it is this is not led by adults, it's led by students. It's student driven.
Yep.
Where they can come together. The diversity there was amazing. There's Miss Tant right there. So it was an honor to be a part of that and to watch those kids socialize and talk about issues that affect them, that impact them, no matter what schools they attend. You want to add anything about the event on Sunday?
Yeah. So I was there at the event as well. Me and a couple of kids from my school and a lot of kids from other schools were also on the board for planning this. And something that we really wanted to discuss at the event was, you know, how thinking about our futures affect us when it comes to, you know, colleges and student loans and those type of questions and those types of things really helped me, and I know a lot of other students, bond with students from different schools because we realized that, you know, Rickards and Lincoln, they're two very different schools who have two very different types of students that go there, but we all still have the same problems. We all still have the same concerns for the school system, for what our futures may hold, and this type of event, the Longest Table event, was a really good event to get to know each other in that way.
Yeah, it was really cool. So thankful again to all the people that helped put it on. Also, it's hard to believe this is the end of the first 9 weeks of school, which is, I know you just kind of scratch your head and go, wow, how did that happen? But we had a very successful first 9 weeks. It's also FTE week, so this is money week. We were counting every student and every desk because we know every student that's with us is worth around $7,000, both in the classroom and on our school buses. So our bus drivers are taking roll, teachers are taking roll. We're all taking roll to submit to the state to submit our FTE rolls for the October survey. So a lot of hard work and effort went into that, and I'd like to thank Bill Nimmons and Missy Atkinson and all the efforts they put in to ensure that our state reports are sent in accurately and in a timely manner. But yes, ma'am.
May I say while they're trying to get it? Yes. May I just say to the students in the audience who might be listening, you're worth far more than $7,000. $7,000 is the amount of money that they give us to pay for your education.
Did I say they were only worth $7,000? I did.
They were like, they were looking at each other like, what?
I'm only worth
You're
$7,000.
priceless. But they pay us, not pay us, they give us $7,000 to pay for your education. Isn't that kind of interesting?
Yes, it is. And then one final, this meeting was all happy and exciting, wonderful people to brag about our school system. But on a bittersweet note, tonight is Mary Nicholson's last school board meeting, as she has resigned to take a job with another agency, and professionally it's a good opportunity for her. But those are going to be tough shoes to fill, and I don't envy Dr. Gale's position of trying to select a candidate with that type of experience that can continue moving that department in the positive direction, and some of the changes we're wanting to implement with onboarding and applicant tracking and exit interviews. And so we're sad to see Mary go, but are certainly understanding of her personal situation, and this is career-wise an opportunity for her to do something different.
Wow. Mr. Superintendent, Madam Chair, I'm sorry. Oftentimes we have good people come and work for us. And oftentimes we have good people who decide they must move on to do some other things. And I think this is one of those times when a good person has chosen to work for us. I mean, just a good woman with the heart to serve this community and with the skills and expertise to have done some things in that HR department in the 2 years that she's been there. And you said it best, that has just been noteworthy. I wish there could be some way we could have her stay. And I just learned about this, I guess, 30 minutes before this meeting, or I would have been in her office saying, please don't go. But anyhow, Mary, I just need to, is she here?
She walked out. But
She's
she'll
crying.
be watching.
She'll be yeah. Well, anyway, because she is the caliber of employee that she has done us not only a good job, but an exemplary job, and it would do well for many of us in this system to emulate her work. And I just needed to say that, having been around and watched what's happening in a lot of our departments. And so this exit interview thing that you've been talking about, it becomes more and more important. I know at FSU we had that, but to find out as folk talk to you, and it's certainly your role to hire and fire really, what's going on, because as we grow and go, it's going to be kind of imperative that we know what's happened to keep the departments where we need them. So I'll personally miss her and professionally just still applaud the wonderful work that she's done.
And I will say this as
wow.
As an organization, let's face it, we're a government entity. Our salaries are, it's hard to stay competitive when a lot of the focus is, again, not on administrative salaries, but on pushing resources
Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
our schools and our employees. So there's a balance there, but then it also is, it's hard to recruit against the private sector that's going to pay, you know, 10, 15, $20,000 more for folks to do similar tasks. It's hard for us to compete sometimes, but we certainly wish Ms. Nicholson well in her next endeavor.
And Madam Chair, I don't mean to continue to take time, but when I talk about good people and grassroots, from that hurricane that happened over in Jackson County, many of our employees were involved in making sure that services were delivered there. Mary Nichols was one of those people. My home is still there in Jackson County. And so when I speak of goodness and greatness, I'm talking about, you know, firsthand stuff.
Real
So, yes,
The real
yes.
thing.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mary. I know you're out there looking.
Ms. Bowen, under continuing concerns,
Oh.
we have archival process for Leon County Schools. Did you want to talk about that tonight, or you
I
want to
do.
wait?
No, I just need to, I thought Dr. Gale was going to say some things. I simply needed to say, oh, that's where we are. That process or to have an office of, where a department where information can be kept, where there is history maintained about what we do in this county. Oftentimes, I get calls, who was the first principal? Who did this? Who did that in the community, in this system? I don't know. And I suspect that the state of Florida will know who its 20th governor was, and the city of Tallahassee and the county commissioner would know, county commission, who the mayors are, that kind of thing. So what do we know about our system and where is it kept? I think for educational purposes, this is a very important thing to do. And given our computer age in which we live and the technology, I'm hoping that it will be fairly easy to do so that we don't lose where we are 20 years from now. I mean, 10 years ago, what happened, you know, that kind of thing. So that would be my press for us to keep that, so that when my great-grandchildren look at 2019, they will know that Rocky Hanna was the superintendent and won't have to call the Department of Education, and you do what you do and the others of us. So it's just important. It's kind of like the history that's lost, you know, in America and in these places about so many other things. And we are a large enough entity that I think we ought to have, and I don't know that I'm asking for a position. It doesn't even matter where it goes as long as we can find it when we need it, and that would not, you know, be my call. So I press for that reasons for this.
One thing I would just mention that Dr. Bill Piotrowski, this is one of his big things when he was here, and he started collecting some of that information.
did.
So maybe maybe we could get some of our retired folks to help us
To
pull
pull it
some of this
together.
together.
And perhaps a committee devoted to this, particularly as we approach celebrating a bicentennial as a community. The history of our school district and our school system is a companion piece to that important history as we catalog what our accomplishments as a community. So I agree with you, however it best is manifest, but it is certainly worthwhile.
And right away, before my birthday, I'm sorry.
I volunteered to at least call a few of the retired folks that have
wonderful.
been in the district and see if they have some interest in putting something like that together, because I know you guys are running 100 miles an hour forward,
important.
and this is a historical thing, and maybe we can find some volunteers to help us do that.
And I said this, I think, at the agenda review, but I think some doctoral students wanting to do a dissertation on, you know, they have archivists at FSU and
They
FAMU,
sure
and
do.
they have library science
Put them to work. Right.
majors that need to know how to document these kinds of things. They have history majors that need to document
Exactly.
things. So
Right.
All of the things that you've talked about under the superintendent's leadership, Chris Petley, and I, we've had discussions about it. And it
Okay.
will take volunteers, others throughout the community to help us with this huge effort, but very important effort. We've also been in touch with many people within the community that have videotapes of different things, such as graduations. We're in the process of collecting those right now so that we can put them in an archive, if you will. Getting the information regarding who were the principals, who were board members, and such like that. Of course, we can get that through personnel records, but putting it all together. So the superintendent is well aware of that, and we'll be communicating with you about this. But
And
it
do
will
we
be
need to put
done.
Do we need to put a timeline on this? I mean, you know, we're into when is it going to happen, that kind of thing. I'm just wanting to make certain that it doesn't get lost. Okay,
Let's add it to our archive list.
then I'm fine.
It's actually on there. It is on there.
Archives on the
Our
archive
to-do list.
To-do list.
It's on there.
Okay,
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you. Last, are there any new issues from board members who may like to bring anything up?
I do have a concern. I know that we have reorganized what was formerly Second Chance. And I would like for either through workshop or through some formal presentation to be made aware of what we are doing to meet the needs of that particular and specific student population. I have heard about us having sent the littlest ones, I believe, to Heritage Trail, and I know that we are creating brand new protocols and facility changes to meet their needs, but I have not heard the full context of that conversation, and I'd like to hear that be explained to us at full. Also, I know that we will be announcing soon, that's my first concern, duly noted. My second concern, I know that we are also in the process of hiring or announcing the appointment of a new president or director of the Leon County Schools Foundation. I'm interested in that person following their announcement, them coming to address this board to share with us their vision for the foundation. I know that they have shared that vision with the selection committee, have shared that vision with the superintendent, and I too want to be duly informed of what their vision is for this direct support organization for our school district. My final concern is these past 2 weeks, I have been amazed at what has been the engagement of our Leon County schools with our business community. I attended the new teacher reception or meal that we had in cooperation with the Tallahassee Chamber and World Class Schools. Then I also had the opportunity to participate in a golf tournament to support our Title I schools. Both of those chambers and our business community and the great work of Kelly Lister Walker and others and engaging with our business community reminds us all of the important investment that the entire community can make in providing quality learning experiences for our young people and making an investment in our young people and in our schools. And I'm excited about who the next president of the foundation will be and how we as the members of the board can be engaged in helping them to do their work as they help to serve our schools. But in the long term, I'm also interested in us also discussing the relationship of this school district with the Leon County Schools Foundation. I've heard hints in our conversation about the compensation, what is our investment in it. I'd like for us to sit down and have a substantive conversation about that moving forward. I think that conversation needs to occur sooner than later because we will have a new director on board, and I think they should know what is the will, the interests of the board in the support of this organization as it supports our school districts. So those are my continuing concerns to be duly noted.
If I could speak to the final concern with the new director of the foundation, I think we'll bring you something 2 weeks from now, the second meeting of October, I guess the 21st. We'll bring someone forward and then also have that person do a report to be heard that night as far as their thoughts and their strategy moving forward. On the other piece, I think it probably would be a good idea if this board met with the foundation's board to talk through some of the issues and concerns that you have. I think there's some language about the foundation, if it receives matching funding, that all public schools in Leon County can apply for those dollars. I'll say that one more time. All public schools in Leon County can apply for grant dollars. And if that's then the case, it kind of changes a little bit of the rules of engagement where we don't want to turn matching dollars away, but then it also includes, other schools that don't fall under our direct jurisdiction and have their own boards. So I think that conversation would be important to have as well.
And Mr. Superintendent, I think in this community, as we continue to talk about issues relative to cyclical poverty, I come from an economic development perspective as a professional. We talk about cyclical poverty, we talk about economic segregation. The cures for those are found in our public schools.
Right.
And that is why the conversations that we have here most frequently regarding support of Title I schools, I think that conversation is catching on in our community. We've seen that with the support of the Big Bend Minority Chamber. We've seen that also with local Rotaries who are now becoming more involved in our Title I schools. We all realize that the panacea to solve a great deal of our problems lies in our schools, and subsequently the community is responding and providing that type of support. Again, the most recent golf tournament that our superintendent was the honorary chair of, we had close to 30 teams and 30 businesses who made an investment in that because they wanted to respond to what we have publicly articulated is the need of our Title I schools. And so that same type of narrative is going to continue to pay great dividends. And so I think we just need to continue to put our foot on the gas.
I agree. And Anisha was here earlier when I went to visit Sable Palm. There are literally hundreds of volunteers that go in. I mean, they're FAMU students, there's Florida State students, there's TCC kids, they're from Baptist churches in town. It's just, she is a shining example of exactly what you said. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it's not the only school, but I've looked at what Carmen is, she is getting
Front
people.
page above the fold in the Sunday newspaper.
Yeah.
Right? We just got to keep our foot on the gas.
And keeping our foot on the gas, Mr. Superintendent, I think it is important to say that when school leaders are chosen who really fit the community that they are chosen to serve in, I need to say that with another kind of emphasis. When that does not happen, then you get what you got when it isn't happening. And if I'm sounding just a little bit whatever, as the kids say, I am. Because I think those two principles, and many others, I don't mean to be disrespecting anybody in any way, but I think those are good examples of good vetting, of good site evaluations, and placing those particular women at those schools to fit that environment. Okay? And I say that with great respect, compassion, and with the continuing caring that should happen at other communities that are in dire need of the kind of community leadership. Because in my mind, those principals not only serve just as the principals of the schools, they serve as leaders in the communities. They are respected. They are sought out. And so I just needed to mention that as part of this conversation. One of the questions I want to ask about the foundation, I guess I've forgotten. Did you say that the schools other than the public schools require or can request grants?
No, he said all public schools, which would include charter schools, right?
Has that always been the case?
You know what, I
don't think so.
This is the first time it's ever really come into play, so I can't speak to that, but I think that people on that board can speak to it. I've only 3 years now have had this experience, but I think that's why I think we need to have a conversation with their board to discuss a way of work moving forward. And if that's indeed the case, then okay, I understand it, but it does then beg the question of us paying the salaries and the employee and all the expenses. Then we need to share some of that responsibility with others who can participate in the process.
I totally agree.
Well, and that's why this workshop will be so important, because I believe, and I guess then that's why this type of conversation and subsequent conversations will be important. I believe that we have to have some skin in the game. And I believe that, and if paying that salary then diminishes the amount the type of impact as we saw stretched across this stage the other day when more than $100,000 was donated to our schools and small grants. If then we have to take the salary out of that, then does that mean that we less? So that's the kind of conversation we have to have. And then what is our relationship with the board? Are their board members appointed by us? They're not ratified by us. There's no vetting. And so if anything goes awry, there's political implications for those of us who sit at this dais, although a separate organization. So we need to talk, there may be policy implications to that discussion as well. So that's why I would love for us to come together and talk about what is the relationship with the foundation and our relationship with them and the district as a whole.
So we will try to make that happen on the agenda review on Monday before the board meeting with their board, so we can have a conversation. And then with their director the following evening.
Mr. Superintendent, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, this is an opportunity again for history. You mentioned 3 years, you've been here. What has been the history? What was the original reason for the foundation? So maybe that can be provided as we look to what we're doing. If we don't know where we come from, then we don't know where we're going. Plugging that point, I'm sorry.
Mr. Rasmussen.
If you're going to have that conversation, it would be really helpful if somebody could put together a one-page bullet sheet of how much are we contributing for salary. I think we have 1.5 or 2 FTEs there. Do we provide in-kind office space? We provide supplies. What is the fiscal impact that of the value of our contribution, and then what are those pivotal things to consider, such as if they get matching money, how much have they gotten, and so forth, because they only get matching money for non-government contributions. So our contribution isn't part of that match configuration. So if they only get non-government match, how much are they getting, and is it and what are the caveats and shoestring or strings attached to that?
If I could add one thing to that this conversation, since I went to their board retreat recently.
You're on their board, right?
I'm on their board.
Yeah.
And they brought in there's a person in the state that is the liaison for all of the foundations.
Oh.
And she actually produced, and I have it, a little booklet that says where Tallahassee, Leon County fits in to the state. How many are supported by school systems, how many are funded privately. And so maybe
That in the
if she could come
Totally.
and join us too, I thought she was just a real good source of information that sort of, again, from the outside, that could give us that view,
Yeah.
that 100-foot view.
So is the conversation we're having now one that we should have had several weeks earlier than before? Aren't they already
think so.
interviewing?
Oh, no,
No?
they've got someone, they're about to,
So the way they're set up, so they
person's hired.
right. So they bring
Oh,
they bring
okay.
forward their own board.
We have
They
to-
bring forward one person for the superintendent to approve or not approve. And if we don't approve, then they have to start all over again. They re-advertise. They go through the hiring system again. And so they brought an applicant forward, and it was of my opinion that I accept their nominee, the person they nominated and brought forward, to be accepted into the position. As far as some of these other questions, those are still left to be determined. But I think a discussion on the 21st with their board to talk about some of the parameters and to look at the historical reasons as to why it was created and who the players are now and who the players aren't is of importance as you make a decision about the positions and just how much skin we have in the game, right?
Okay. All right, so we'll look forward to that discussion.
Okay.
Is there anything else for the good of the cause, Mr. Jones?
I see you're reaching for that gavel. Before you do that, I want to make one announcement, please.
Yes, sir.
I want to recognize the innovation in District 3, most specifically at the R. Frank Nims Middle School. Dr. Benny Bolden and Dr. Kelvin Norton are having on October 15th a tie day where the young men at R. Frank Nims Middle School will come to school dressed in their crisp white shirts, and gentlemen from across our community, to include our superintendent, will take the time to show these young men how to tie a tie. And I just think that that type of modeling manhood for our young people is extraordinarily important. And I wanted to recognize both of those leaders for their innovation and having this idea. I believe this is their second or third year, Mr. Superintendent.
It is, but let's be clear, I am not D. Crumpler. I will not be, no bow ties.
Sewing the ties.
I am not sewing the tie, making the tie, or
So-
tying a bow tie.
But it's on October 15th, and if there are gentlemen across our district who would like to participate, I'm sure that Dr. Bowden would be delighted to have them there. There will be a great number of young people who will subsequently be beneficiaries of the ties that will be provided, and the opportunity for that type of engagement, I think, is just really special.
It is.
Okay. I'm going to reach for the gavel unless anyone has anything else to say. Meeting's adjourned.